welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio. I am your host, Paul Markle, and with me, of course, is Jared, and we are both still in our range clothes. That's right, we still are wearing our range funk as we record this week's episode. We went out, got up early this morning, had some breakfast, went out to the range, spent about, 2-3 hours, I guess, Jared? About 3 hours?
Yeah, it was probably about enough to shoot how many rounds out of that little?
500-600 rounds or total. I don't know. But, yeah, we went out to the range today. We had a great time. Beautiful, just gorgeous sunny day here in South Mississippi. And I know that's just a tweak to all you people who are living up in the frozen tundra. But, hey, you can still shoot in the snow. You are allowed, right? You allowed to shoot in the snow, Jared?
Yeah, adversity breeds camaraderie, right?
That's right. Adversity breeds camaraderie. So, we're glad to be back here with you this week, and we've got a lot of material to cover, as always. When do we not have a lot of material to cover? You know, again, people say, well, I don't know how you're going to do a weekly show about guns, because eventually you're just going to run out of stuff to talk about. We wish that we had run out of stuff to talk about, but we haven't. Now, don't forget that we always have lots of new material for you guys on studentofthegun.com. Make sure that each week, at least once a week, take some time, go over to studentofthegun.com. We've got articles, we've got video. You can link to all our good stuff, to the Student of the Gun store. You can link to our social media and so forth. And speaking of linking to Student of the Gun, a lot of you guys out there, not all of you, but a lot have gone ahead and gotten on board with the new Student of the Gun mobile app. The mobile application. And if you, a lot of you guys that are hip out there, all you young hipsters, you probably have realized by now that Jared spent a lot of time last week updating the mobile app. So it looks even better than it did originally. So check out the mobile app. If you've got an Android device, go there, go to Google Play. If you've got an iTunes, an iPad, or an iPhone or whatever, just go to the iTunes App Store and you can download it absolutely free. Cost you nothing. And the reason you can do that is because why, Jared? Tell them why they can download it for free on their mobile device.
Our good friends at Century Arms, sorry, I can't talk today for some reason. Our good friends at Century Arms have been very nice to us, very generous, and they sponsored they sponsored the mobile app so that we could offer it to you for free.
That's right. No cost to you, thanks to our friends at Century Arms. Now, speaking of our friends at Century Arms, if you are a social media hipster, if you follow our Facebook or Instagram, did you put it up on Instagram, Jared?
What?
The picture of the micro.
Yeah, it was on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Okay.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, if you're following us on social media like you should be, you would have seen a picture of a new Century Arms gun called the C39 Micro Pistol. And you're thinking, if you haven't seen it, you're probably thinking, oh, it's a micro, so it's probably a pocket gun, right? Unless you're Andre the Giant, it's not going to be fitting in your pocket. Jared wanted to say something.
I was just going to say it's close. And when you see the pictures, you're going to want to pinch its cheeks.
Because it's just so darn cute. No, if you don't know, Century Arms is making a 100% made in the USA AK called the C39. And they have a rifle version, and they have a pistol version, and now they have a pistol version that's smaller than the original. And so what we got is we received one of those to T&E, and we took it out to the range today for the very first time. We put an SB47 wrist stabilizer on it, and one of the really cool things about this pistol is it comes with a Picatinny rail mount system up front, right behind the front sight. And it's rock solid. There's no wiggle in it or anything. A lot of folks out there, AK people, you're always looking for a good place to mount something on your AK. And the dust cover isn't really a great place to mount anything. And then you've got your strange, weird, over-the-top ones. But those generally raise your cheek so far up off the stock you can't even touch it. But the mounting system that they put on this micro pistol was very cool. We put a mini red dot up there on that, and we zeroed it at 30 yards, and then we were shooting a steel silhouette at 100, And did you pick off that 200-yard silhouette, Jared?
Yeah, I did a couple times.
Not every time, but for an AK pistol, practical range for that thing was anywhere legitimately within 100 yards and in. It was dead on, and then 200, as long as you held it steady and did your part, you could drop rounds in. So we had a lot of fun. We put somewhere in the neighborhood of about 11 or 12 full 30-round magazines through that gun today. Heated it up a little bit. We started out, we lubed it up real good, lubed up the bolt carrier. If you know anything about AKs, they like to have some lubrication on them. And we made that thing rock today. So we had a good time.
I was once told a little lube goes a long way.
Yeah, well, there you go. So thanks again to our good friends at Century and for sponsoring the mobile app. And if you haven't checked out the mobile app, you're shortchanging yourself. Dudes and dudettes, check it out. Unless you're like my good friend Zach, who we got called out for calling out Zach this week, didn't we, Jared?
We did.
Yeah, Rebecca, Red Jacket Rebecca, called us out for calling out Zach for his flip phone. But Zach likes his flip phone. He only has to recharge it once every 2 or 3 or 4 days because it holds a charge that long. But if you got a flip phone like our good friend Zach, that's cool. You can just go to studentofthegun.com on your laptop or at your desktop when you're at work, when you're supposed to be working. Instead, you can be perusing Student of the Gun, unless where your work is that they have a filter or a firewall. If your firewall, well, that's a good hint, right, Jared? If they work in a place where the firewall won't allow Student of the Gun through, they need to get a new job, right?
Right.
Well, either that or they need to just go ahead and get an iPhone. Or what is that cool phone that you're got there over there?
I have the Samsung Galaxy Note.
The Galaxy Note. They didn't pay us any money, but they just got a free plug. And the mobile app looks awesome on that.
I don't know if you guys pay attention to the war between Apple and Samsung, but I think Apple sued Samsung for something like $5 billion or $5 million. I don't know. It was a lot of money. But anyway, so Apple won the case, and the guy at the Samsung owner or whoever divvies out the money over there at Samsung sent Apple all of their money in nickels in dump trucks.
Dump trucks full of nickels.
Yep.
Well, there you go. They didn't say how you had to spend it. All right.
Money is money.
Money and money. All right. Speaking of money, speaking of producing Student of the Gun Radio with our black carbon steel microphones just for you guys, we couldn't do it without our good friends at Crossbreed Holsters up there in Republic, Missouri, where they're probably getting a little bit of snow. I'm not sure what it's like up there in Republic, Missouri right now. But check them out, Crossbreed. And if you're going to order a Crossbreed for yourself, if you're going to order a Super Tuck Deluxe, do yourself a favor, spend the extra $10 to $15 and get the horsehide backing. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. That's a little hint from your Uncle Paul to you. Now, also, where it is much warmer and sunnier than where we are, Cocoa, Florida, that's where you're going to find Keltec. Keltec weapons. They're all the time making new and cool, innovative stuff. We can't wait to we're kind of chomping at the bit to get our hands on that new bullpup rifle. Haven't seen it yet, but we will let you know the moment that we get our hands on it. And don't forget about our friends at Colt Manufacturing. Colt Manufacturing making the LE901 rifle, the rifle that can go 308 to 5.56 in 30 seconds. You can change it out. We were actually out there shooting the LE901 today out at the range. So check them out at Colt.com. Now, every week, Jared picks an Excess Sights Good Guy of the Week. And generally, he'll go first to forums.studentofthegun to pick the question. That's where he goes first. And if he can't find a good question there, then he'll go to Facebook or somewhere else. But the best way to get Jared's attention is to go to the forums page. And if you guys want to get on there and chat amongst yourselves about what's new and cool and interesting in the gun world, go for it. Go crazy. Keep it clean because it's family friendly.
You know what would actually be even easier for me to access? If you download the mobile app and post your question on the fan wall. Because I can get to that. I can get to that from any of my devices.
Dude, now you're every week. All right, well, that's right. And that is a good thing. There is a fan wall on our mobile apps if you have any comments for us. Or one guy, Dustin commented that his wife bought him the Student of the Gun book for his birthday. And that was his birthday present. Did you see that, Jared?
I saw something that said best birthday present ever, but I didn't.
Yeah.
know what it was.
One of our fans, one of our students out there, Dustin, likes the show, and his wife surprised him by giving him the gift of a Student of the Gun paperback book. Student of the Gun, A Beginner Once, A Student for Life. And that obviously was an excellent choice on her part. She obviously has a lot of class and good taste. But back to the Excess Sites Good Guy of the Week. Jared's going to go ahead and tell us who our Good Guy of the Week is and what was their question.
Our Good Guy of the Week, I'm not really sure what his name is, but his forum handle is Dov, that's D-O-V, _Israel. So you can email me your info. I need your address, your shirt size, and your phone number. And my email is Jared, Jarrad, @studentofthegun.com. And Dov asks, he says, I always hear that a gunfight is a dynamic situation where movement and decision-making is of paramount importance. I do not have any facility near me where I can shoot and move with live firearms. How do you recommend someone train for the dynamic nature of a gunfight on a linear gun range?
Okay, yeah, we encounter that quite frequently, and depending on where you live in the world, where your local gun range, some of these ranges, some of these indoor ranges and outdoor ranges, they have so many range rules that they're basically setting you up for failure. They've got the first rule starts at the ceiling and it goes all the way to the floor, and you've got 37, 38, 43 range rules. No smoking on the range, no pets allowed, there's so many no. It's like, dude, why do we even let people have guns and ammunition here? Apparently it's so dangerous that we shouldn't even be here. And what I find hilarious is a lot of times you go to these ranges and they've got the list of 47 range rules, and if you read all 47, often the 4 universal firearm safety rules aren't even mentioned in there. So, but if you have one of these local ranges where they're very, very scared to let you do anything dynamic, no drawing from a holster, no moving, no this, no that. All right, I got you. They can tell you that you're not allowed to draw from a holster. That's their right. They can tell you that you're not allowed to move and shoot. Okay, that is their right. What you do, though, when you don't have a gun in your hand is your right. And if you have a local range that won't allow you to move your body without a gun in your hand, you probably need to go somewhere else. But we've addressed this situation both on the TV show and on the radio show, but I'm going to talk about it again because we actually have 2 ways of, I guess, kind of overcoming this static range Nazi stuff. So let's say you have an indoor range that's the only place within your general area that you can shoot, and you're not allowed to draw from a holster, and you're not allowed to do any kind of, dangerous movement. Okay, cool. Start out like this. Take whatever gun it is that you're going to use and do the 1-box workout. The 1-box workout is a good skill maintenance drill. It's a good way to maintain your skill with 50 rounds, and you can do that even on a restrictive indoor range. And if you're a member, a subscriber to studentofthegun.com, if you're one of our e-newsletter subscribers, we send you. That's the first thing you get is you get a digital copy immediately as soon as you sign up and verify your email address. We send you the 1-box workout, and you can take that. It's 50 rounds of Full Metal Jacket, Winchester White Box, or Federal American Eagle, or whatever. You can get a good skill maintenance drill just from doing the 1-box workout. And that way you're actually making valuable use of your time. You're not just making noise and generating empty brass. So we believe that right there is one good way that you can do it, that you can maintain a little bit of practical skill. Now, what is another way? We actually, Jared and I, we were at shooting camp this summer, and we were talking about moving with a gun in your hand, moving when you need to engage a target, because doggone it, the bad guys don't always start out right directly in front of you. Sometimes the bad guy starts his little game and you're not facing him. You're going to have to turn and face that bad guy. So how do you practice doing that safely how do you safely practice without, muzzling other people? And how do you do it on one of these restrictive ranges? Well, when we run it, you can either run it with a rifle or a pistol. When we run it with the pistol, normally what we do is we start with a holstered gun, and you start facing your target. You draw, engage it with one shot, finish, holster up, and then do a 45-degree turn to the right. Same thing. Bam. Turn, engage, and so forth. And when we call it the compass drill or the 8-point drill, because you're going a full 360 degrees around, like 360 degrees on a compass. And also you could say, well, the directions are north, south, east, west, but also northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. Think about it like that. So all the directions. And you say, yeah, but I can't draw from a holster where I'm at. I'm not allowed. Okay, that's cool. What I want you to do is, let's say you have a Glock 19 or you have a Smith & Wesson M&P or something like that. What you can do is our compass drill. What you can do is take your pistol, whatever it is, an M&P, Glock, Smith & Wesson, whatever it happens to be, and set the gun up as it would be in your holster. So if it's a 1911 and it's round chambered safety on, set your gun like that. Put it on that little table or bench, that little mini table bench thing that you have at the indoor ranges. Set it down there. Make sure that the muzzle is facing directly downrange, straight downrange, perpendicular, or the range Nazi guy will run over and yell at you. But set the gun down on the bench and then set yourself up. And then have, if you have a buddy with you, just have him say, fight or go or shoot or whatever. Have your buddy give you a command. Reach down, pick up the gun, fire 1 or 2 shots, reset it, set it back down, and then go through the compass drill. Turn 45 degrees, same thing. 90 degrees, another 45, and so forth. So you've gone a full 360 degrees all the way around the compass. And so what you're doing is you're moving your body. You're forcing your body to have to turn and face the target, see the target. You're picking up the gun, you're scooping it up, what have you. Now, would it be more practical for a concealed carry person if they drew it from their holster? Well, yeah, obviously it would. But we're trying to, make lemonade out of lemons here. So if you do that, you can still get a good workout at an indoor range. And when it comes to your, decision-making and dynamic, well, obviously, you're forcing yourself to do something before you press the trigger. The gun is there, it's ready to go, but before you can shoot it, you have to go through some type of physical decision-making process. You have to turn, face the target, whether it's, 90 degrees or left or right or 180 degrees away from it, what have you. You got to do that turn, identify your target, pick the gun up, remove the safety, whatever you need to do, and then engage it. So you're teaching yourself not only to use your equipment, which is the gun, but you're also teaching yourself to move and, face the target. You're doing something dynamic. You're not just making noise and generating empty brass. So we hope that, that was a good question, Dov or DOV or whatever you call yourself, Dov Israel. Thanks for bringing that up. And might want to try that out next time you go to your restrictive indoor range or even one of these restrictive outdoor ranges where you're not allowed to use a holster or anything like that. You might want to think about doing that. Now, when you're by yourself, if you're a concealed carry person and you're worried about being able to access your firearm in a timely manner, what you might want to do is take your gun and clear it completely of all live ammunition. That's right, take all the live ammunition out of it, double check it, put the ammunition somewhere where you cannot reach it with your hand inadvertently, and then set yourself up as you would be dressed out in public, whether it's with a jacket or a vest or an overshirt or a sweatshirt or whatever. Set yourself up just like if you're going to be walking around in public, and then practice accessing your gun like that. Because there's a big difference between buying one of these, $30 or $40 range holsters, going to the range with no cover garment on and drawing, and then there is with a deep concealment holster with a T-shirt and a large sweatshirt draped over it. So take the time to practice slowly and methodically with no ammunition, and then, when you have to go live with one of these ranges, then you can practice there. So that is our advice. And remember, you're like, well, I never heard about this one-box workout thing. What's that all about? All you have to do is go to studentofthegun.com. Over on the right-hand side, there's a little sign-up sheet, it's not sheet, it's, a little sign-up area, and you'll get our weekly newsletter, our weekly electronic newsletter. And as soon as you sign up for that, you get your little email, and it says, are you sure that you absolutely, positively want to receive this Student of the Gun newsletter thing? And you say yes, and you confirm your email. And as soon as you've confirmed your email address, then it'll automatically send you the link for the One Box workout. You can print it up, or you can put it on your phone, or do whatever you want with it. And we think that's a good way for you to actually get some skill maintenance and make the most of the available ammunition.
In addition to that little handout that you get, the report, immediately you get a one-time offer that we on a very informational product. And I believe it's something like half off, or it's close to half off. Right?
Oh, yeah, you get a special one-time offer on Armed Living DVD.
Yeah.
And there's two or three videos that you have immediate access to. We put up a couple of training videos for you guys that are only accessible to our Student of the Gun newsletter subscribers. So you get a lot of free stuff right up front, and all you have to do is take the 30 seconds to a minute that it takes to actually go to studentofthegun.com and sign up.
I was mulling over an idea, and I kind of want to get the fan feedback on it as well. This is going to be the first time Dad hears the idea, as well as you guys. So I was kind of thinking that I was going to make a members area on the radio site where we could do maybe an extra hour of radio that's only available to paid members. I don't know the price yet, but I want to get some feedback and see how many of you would be interested in an extra hour of Student of the Gun radio every week.
That is an interesting idea. The kid just came up with that on his own. That's what happens when you let him have time to think over there.
Yeah. Time to think.
All right. Well, it's time to get into the meat, and we're going to get into our slave state news right now.
I like to teach you all the rules. I get to see them set in stone. I like it when you chain me to the bed.
All right, you guys, if you're slick students of the gun, if you're paying attention to what's going on around you, everybody, we got this news pretty much as soon as it broke, and we dropped it into the show notes. We knew we had to talk about it this week, and that is the 9th District Court overturned San Diego's. There was a lawsuit, and in San Diego, in California, in the People's Republic of California, you have, it's a may issue state. And if you guys live out there, you know what the difference between may and shall. May is we may or we may not, and you peasants don't have a say in it. Now, in order to get a concealed carry permit, to get permission from the state in California to carry a concealed handgun, you have to go through 3 steps. You have to, quote, show good moral character. Then you have to demonstrate cause or a demonstrated need, and then you have to have state-approved firearms training. Well, I'm looking through my show notes here. I'm trying to think of the name of the person whose name was on the lawsuit. Whose name was on that lawsuit, Jared? It was Duluth or something like that. Okay, well, I can't see it right now. What I've got open is my source for this is theshootingwire.com, and my good friend Jim Shepard did a little op-ed piece in the Shooting Wire about what this means, and it's San Diego versus yada yada. All right, so essentially, the state of California says to the peasants, in order for us to grant you the privilege of being an armed citizen, you have to come to us and demonstrate the three following things. You have to demonstrate good moral character. And you're like, well, how do you do that exactly? I'm not a convicted felon. How about that? And then you had to show cause, right? Good cause for the request. And then you had to, meet the state-approved training. Now, in most states, you're like, well, the state-approved training is pretty cut and dried. They have an 8-hour state-approved course or 12 hours or however many hours it is of state-approved training that you have to go through to get your concealed carry license. And what we found historically throughout the United States is most of these state-approved concealed carry classes consist of telling you for 1, 2, 3 hours what you're not allowed to do. We've sat through them where you're like, dude, I just wanted to get up and walk out because the guy stands up in front of you for, 2 hours telling you what you're forbidden to do, what you're not allowed to do, where you're not allowed to go, how you're not allowed to. I'm like, dude, if I wanted to sit here and listen to you tell me what I'm not allowed to do, I just wouldn't even come. But folks, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. The state is not concerned with telling you what you can do, what you're allowed to do. They want to tell you what you're not allowed to do. Most concealed carry courses or these state-approved courses are very, very, I'm going to get in trouble if I say worthless. They're not totally worthless. They're just, if there's something that's a little bit less than worthless, there's that. And unfortunately, a lot of people think, well, they go and they take this state-mandated course, and then they think, well, I'm trained now. I have my training, so I don't need to go through any more training because I have my little card or my little certificate from the guy who's the approved state trainer. And what we want you here at Student of the Gun, we want you to consider that a minimum, the very basic level of training. That's not the maximum. You don't get that class and then stop there. Say, I'm good now. I know what I'm doing. I'm good to go. Most of these classes, they don't really even, and it's not so much the instructors, they don't really have time to teach you, to instruct you. Basically, a lot of them, they're just safety courses where they check to make sure that you didn't shoot yourself or someone else. You go through the class, you put 6, 10, 50, I don't know, some arbitrary number of rounds into a target, and they say, okay, you put the correct number of rounds into the paper, you pass. Yay, go team. So you've got that. Then you have the good moral character. And this is one that is kind of arbitrary if you think about it, because it's based upon what? It's based upon the decision of the state official. The state official decides whether or not he believes. Who was it? It was one of our fans wrote to us and they said, "Oh, I'm excited. I have my interview tomorrow, my concealed carry interview." And we're like, "What? What are you talking about?" "Oh, well, in order to get one, you have to go in and sit down and have an interview." An interview with who? Well, with the guy from the state police or the county sheriff or the whatever. And we're like, so that guy gets to judge whether or not you're, well, no, that's the where the insanity slips in, is people in California think that is reasonable and that's just what you should do. So I have to prove to a bureaucrat who works for the state that I should be able to exercise my constitutional right to be an armed citizen. I don't think so, Sparky. Well, the last one, the demonstrated cause. Now, this is the whole reason for the lawsuit. And what the Ninth District Court found was in a 2-1 ruling that it was in an abridgment of the Second Amendment's guarantee to keep and bear arms to require someone to prove cause. And you're like, well, what are you talking about cause, Paul? I live in free America. You crazy people. Well, you had to, in California, you had to convince the sheriff's department or whoever was the issuing agency that not only did you meet the criteria through training and good moral character, but that you had a demonstrable reason. Like, let's say you are a woman and you had been beaten up by your ex-husband and he was stalking you. Okay. Or you're a jeweler, you're a small business owner, and you carry around diamonds and rubies and stuff like that. And so you have to carry a lot of valuable, or you're a pawn shop owner and you always have lots of cash or whatever, something. You had to give them a reason. And the reason of, well, I'm a citizen in good standing of the United States of America, and I don't have to give you a reason. Well, in California, that wasn't good enough. And when a may issue state means maybe yes, maybe no. Did you donate to the sheriff's campaign for re-election last year? No, you didn't? Then the answer is no. When you put a person in charge, a bureaucrat in charge, it's kind of like Maryland. We talked about that, 2 weeks ago. And our friends in Maryland said that might as well not even exist, because it's a may issue state, and the answer is generally no. The answer is no. So now people are excited because the court says that you can no longer require people to, issue cause or give good cause, or you can't require that. Okay, rock on. That doesn't, however, change the states, as far as we've seen, it doesn't change the fact that California is still a may issue state. Even though they can no longer ask based on this ruling, they can't force you to demonstrate good cause, they can still tell you no. They can still say, they still have the right to say no. So people are, people in California, they're really excited. I mean, and across the nation, gun people are like, woohoo, it's a victory, yoo-hoo. But as Jim points out in his article on the Shooting Wire and the Outdoor Wire, there have been circuit courts in the United States that say that this is not an abridgment of the Second Amendment rights, and that the Second Amendment rights are not absolute, and that the state absolutely has the authority to divvy out your rights as they see fit. So what you've got in the United States is you have several of these district courts that now have opposing rulings. And what Jim points out in his article is what is likely to happen now that you have, the Fourth Circuit does this, the Ninth Circuit, the Second, the whatever, now that they're not in total agreement, where does that put it? Well, that puts the question basically to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will probably have to come down with a ruling based upon, or deciding whether or not, do you as a citizen have to show cause, or is it a situation where it should be a shall issue? Now, in shall issue states, the burden is, instead of the burden being put on the citizen, the burden is actually put on the state. In a shall issue, venue or area, such as Mississippi, Ohio, Texas, Florida, you name it, in a shall issue state, the only way that they can tell you no is if they demonstrate that you're disqualified based upon a limited number of criteria. You're a convicted felon, you've been adjudicated to be mentally unstable, you're addicted or been shown to be addicted to alcohol or drugs or what have you. And then the state can say, well, based upon your felony conviction, the answer is no. If they can't come up with a very demonstrable reason why you can't have one, they shall issue it to you. That's the big difference between shall and may. Now, of course, what we should be going for as American citizens is basically where we used to be. We used to be in a country where it was understood that a citizen in good standing may be armed wherever, in their house, on the street, wherever they happen to be, that they may be armed, because that's the whole point of keep and bear arms. And slowly but surely, as we got civilized and moved into these large urban areas, the cities and the states decided, well, you barbarians don't need to have firearms anymore. That's the government's job to protect you, or to not protect you if you're in New York or wherever you happen to be. So you don't get to do that anymore. So what we're actually doing is we're trying to fight our way back to the original foundings. And the term for that is constitutional carry. And that's what they have in Alaska and in Arizona, and I believe in New Hampshire, as what they call constitutional carry, whereas your driver's license is like my friend Cork says. He said, my Alaska driver's license is my permit. He said, I'm a citizen of the state of Alaska, and therefore I can carry. End of story. And same thing in Arizona. If you're a citizen in good standing, as long as you are not disqualified from owning a firearm, you can carry a firearm. And I believe that if you're a student of the gun, if you're sitting out there, you might be thinking, well, isn't that the way it should be in the United States? Because bad people are already carrying their guns. So what you've got is the bad people already carrying their guns, and you've got the state carrying their guns, and who's stuck in the middle between them? You and I. So we knew that we had to take a moment to talk about that. And if you guys want to, if you're listening to this right now, you can go to shootingwire.com or theoutdoorwire.com, and you can check out Jim's op-ed piece about that district, about the 9th District's decision. It's a pretty good one. But we want to stay in the People's Republic of California because there's a lot of news out of California. And the next one comes to us from KQED.org, the news fix of the Bay Area. And the title is California Program Hunts Down Illegal Gun Owners. Now let's examine the title of the story for a second.
So are the gun owners illegal, or are the guns that these people own illegal? I don't really understand that.
Or does owning a gun make you unlawful? Well, and you saw the title of this week. It's we've got it's gun confiscation. We've got an app for that. And the APP comes from the California, I think it's APPS, the California, it's a very specific system that they have to disarm citizens, to make sure that they're getting guns out of the hands of citizens.
Do they take their bullets first or the guns first?
I don't know, but it's called, the APPS is for armed and prohibited persons. Okay. And this is a system that is generates a list of prohibited owners of guns by cross-referencing court and mental health records data with the state's gun registry information. Okay. For those of you in free America that are trying to live your lives as a citizen, I'm going to reread that for you. The APPS program in the People's Republic of California says it generates a list of prohibited owners by cross-referencing court and mental hospital records with the state's gun registry. Okay, so what do we have there? What pieces for the totalitarian tyrant state puzzle do we have there? Well, we have gun registration. We have registration. So people are like, well, what's the big deal? You got a driver's license. You went down and got a driver's license. You should have to get a license to own a gun. Isn't that just reasonable? Won't that make more people safe? Okay, so we have a registry. And then you have, now, correct me if I'm wrong, how many of you out there in the audience are mental health professionals? And how many of you know the little term called HIPAA? Well, according to HIPAA, you are forbidden to give any health information out, any information about a person's insurance, their health conditions, their whatever, to anyone who does not have a demonstrated need for that or who has not been given permission by the patient to release that information. And I worked, I think you guys know, we talked about this before, but I did security for a hospital, and that was one of the big things that they were very, very concerned about all the time was HIPAA violations, of allowing patient information to get out to places where it didn't need to be. And that included the government, included strangers, included insurance companies, included everybody. If you didn't have the need to know, you could not release someone's personal health care information. Well, that was old America. Back in old America, we used to do that. In modern People's Republic of California, just to be reasonable, we need to let the state get involved, and we need to let the state cross-reference mental health records. You're like, but all right, I'll be devil's advocate. Let's say somebody, when they were 25 years old and they were feeling depression, signs of depression or what have you, and they sought help. They got the help. Now they're 41 years old. Does that person have a, quote, record of mental illness? Now, some people would say, well, no, seeking help for depression doesn't qualify you as a history of mental illness. You might say that. People from California in the APPS program might say, no, that does disqualify you from owning a firearm. How about misdemeanors? Do those disqualify you? Well, I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Well, you're like, Paul, come on, what's the big deal, man? The big deal is this. This program does not say that it's designed to ensure that convicted felons and criminals are not allowed to possess guns. because we know that convicted felons and criminals have guns all the time. It's what they do. They have dope and they have guns and they commit crimes. That's part of being a convicted felon. It's part of being a criminal. That's their lifestyle. So, well, who is it affecting? Well, if we go up to the second story right here, what we find is that a California man's home was raided and his gun seized based upon incorrect information that was in the what? In the APPS database. So think about this, all you people, all you poo-poo conspiracy people. Like, well, first of all, if it's actually happening all around you, it's not a conspiracy because it's actually happening. What happened was a California man's home was visited by armed agents of the state looking for firearms. They were there because of incorrect information that showed him to be ineligible. And the gentleman in question was from Bakersfield, and he was charged with marijuana possession 40 years ago. So either, according to this, either in the early 70s or late 60s, was charged with marijuana possession, given probation in order to pay a $100 fine. So the charge was so old that it no longer exists in the state's criminal code, but this gentleman had his home raided by the APPS, the APPS Gestapo, and they wanted his guns. Folks, if you live in a state where there is an agency specifically designed to go around confiscating guns from people, you got a problem. You have a big, big problem. You're like, well, what's the big deal, Paul? Well, it used to be that the police were in charge of catching criminals. They go out, find the criminals, they catch the criminals, they lock the criminals up, they file charges, and then the prosecutors go from there. And then it goes into the judicial system, and the judge and the juries decide whether or not they're guilty, and they get incarcerated or fined or what have you. Okay, so what you've got is you have the APPS, the APPS Gestapo in the People's Republic of California. And according to the story, it is a 33-man task force that was formed in 2001 specifically to seize firearms from those who have been disqualified by the state from owning them, or even erroneously disqualified, or even, oops, we made a mistake and our information on our wonderful computer is wrong, but we're going to come to your house because why? Because I'm an arsonist, a rapist, a felon? No, because your crime is owning and possessing guns. Folks, if you don't have a problem with this, you might want to stop playing fantasy football for 5 seconds and consider it. And it says here that they've set aside $24 million for this APPS Gestapo to go around and confiscate guns from disqualified people, from people that the state has determined are no longer qualified to possess firearms. Well, they're no longer qualified because why? Because they got convicted of rape or robbery or arson or murder? No, because they cross-referenced your personal records with the state's firearms registry. And you're like, no, stop, Paul. The 4473 is not supposed to be for registration. The state's not supposed to be able to go in and access that unless they have a warrant and due cause to do it on an individual basis. You'd think that would be the case, wouldn't you? But hey, in the glorious People's Republic, that's not the case. Now we're going to give you one more. We've got one more slave state news, keeping with our slave state mantra here. And it comes to us from Boston. Now, you guys remember we talked about Boston before and about the mayor there. So Boston Mayor Marty Walsh, he's decided that after the shooting of a 9-year-old boy by his brother, accidental shooting by a 9-year-old boy and his brother in a crime-ridden area. Now, we're not supposed to know about that, but a impoverished, crime-ridden area. So what we know is when there's an accident or there's a negligent shooting, what we need to do is we need to punish gun owners. We need to punish the law-abiding to make that better. Well, Marty has said that he's going to work very closely with the police department to institute a gun buyback program. And you might be saying, buy them back from who, Marty? They never were yours in the first place. It's private property, Marty. It's not your business, Marty. But no, that doesn't stop liberals and Democrats. No, it says, Marty, he says, I'm working with the commissioner a little bit now to come up with how we're going to formulate the gun buyback program. It is a short-term solution. Now, another thing that Marty wants to know is we need help from the community. That's right. He's a community guy. We need help from people to let us know where these guns are and who has these guns, and to bring these guns in so we can get them off the what? Littering and get them off the street. That's right. Get them off the street. Yo, yo. So Mayor Marty Walsh is concerned that there are guns on the street. Lord in heaven, I am so sick of these liberal politicians talking about the street, and we need to get guns off the street. Where is this street that is littered with guns? Jared, do you know where the street is?
It must be in
Mattapan, Massachusetts, in Boston. Apparently in Boston, the streets are littered with guns, and we need to get them off the streets.
I'll go up there and get them off the streets. If they're just laying there, you know.
So, folks, don't fall for it. It's crap. It's pointless garbage. This is more feel-good politics. It does nothing to protect you. It does nothing to ensure your rights as a citizen. It does everything to convince you that somehow the inanimate object in and of itself is bad. Just like chainsaws are bad, and screwdrivers are bad, and electricity is bad, and water is bad, because all of these things can harm you and or make you die. So they have to be bad, right? Automobiles are bad. Gravity is bad. No, but inanimate guns are, the object is bad. It's bullcrap, and we're not buying it. Sorry, Marty. Try again. But for those of us who don't live in the slave state of Massachusetts, and some of you comfortable slaves up there that do, you shouldn't be buying it either. Now, that's going to put the wraps on the we've got an app for that segment of this week of Student of the Gun. Thank you for being with us. Now, we're going to come right back with part 2 of this week, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about in part 2. But one of the things we want to specifically deal with is the fact that the Mexican thug piece of human debris that murdered Brian Terry, that murdered Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, was sentenced this week. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. So remember, you are a beginner once. You should be a student for life.